are these people?
So we're doing Extra Story tonight. This is kind of a supplement to the segment I just did at the Super Bowl. So we're going to continue on with the Super Bowl with this character, Kendrick Lamar.
Man, damn, call the ambulance.
On the left who,
what? Sorry.
You probably would not have seen this in mainstream media, but apparently during the halftime show, this guy in that circle held up that Sudan-Gaza flag in protest during the halftime show. And of course, as he would have, got escorted out immediately.
A
lot of stuff happens that the news won't tell you.
So it's funny how people are like, no one's protesting under Trump, but okay.
You got it?
I probably lost the slides for a second. It cut me off. So funny enough how people are like, oh, like no one's protesting under Trump. Here's your guy who did it. Like I said earlier, like, look, I like Kendrick. I like his music. I think he's very talented, but he's always kind of come off to me, especially within the last few years, as someone that gives me the side eye because he's done some things that have been kind of questionable. But given, like, you know, there's been a lot of talk. Well, actually, funny enough, like while I was at the gym today, I was watching like another YouTuber who was playing clips from people from Louisiana, basically, or New Orleans, who had a problem with Kendrick. A lot of people were like, Lil Wayne should have been the headliner, given that he's from New Orleans.
Lil Wayne's
or
got
at
some
minimum,
fuck shit
Kendrick
too.
should have utilized. Or Kendrick at minimum should have utilized some of the NOLA culture integrated into the show. Now, I don't think Kendrick has to do that. I don't think it's a Super halftime show, so it's not that serious. But we're going to get into some of the things that are around him, which is questionable, and probably one of the big reasons why, especially regarding this protester, that as of now, Kendrick has not said shit, or his handlers in connection to the Super Bowl have not said shit. And it's been stuff that we've talked about on this show before. We're actually going to do a flashback on that. But we're going to start from the beginning.
You better say Free Palestine.
This is from Bits That Go Hard. Shout out to the guy that was waving the Palestinian flag behind Kendrick. So this was at least what I kind of saw on Twitter during the show. So the guy was standing on Kendrick's wheels, holding up the flag. So this was during the performance.
Right. And then he has to literally run and avoid security.
Run. Right.
So he's at the 20. He's at the 30. Good for him. So, I mean, more people, Kendrick should have done a whole verse on it, but what do I know?
Well, there's
and
probably
then they finally get him.
And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that because there's probable reason why he didn't. So yeah, but that's basically, he got
escorted off the field and whatnot.
Security, escorted. So let's go to the next slide. So shout out to Hotspot and shout out to Nico. Now, Nico has said several tweets on this, but I think he basically used all those tweets regarding this and encapsulated them into this Hotspot segment. But I'll read what he said here. The Super Bowl halftime show was emblematic of everything problematic about the U.S. Azul Anan Natambu, that's the guy who protested, waves a flag to bring attention to the genocides in Gaza and Sudan and is punished for it, while Kendrick Lamar and his colleagues, selected by Jay-Z, we'll get more to him in a minute, tap dance to cheers for anti-symbolism following by zero action while raking in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to pretend as if they care about the issues brought up in his music. Netumbo has been given a lifetime ban, meaning he cannot participate in any NFL events. He cannot go to the stadiums anymore. Not just from the NFL games, but from all NFL stadiums. Kendrick Lamar and Jay-Z have not said a word to defend the protester, similar to how they've said not a word of criticism about the genocide. What we saw in real time, that genocide has become normalized in the US. The punishment for protesting genocide is literally steeper than actually committing a genocide. And historical victims of systemic oppression and violence are now being used as the puppets to keep people complicit. Stop celebrity worship. Hold them accountable. So let's go into more of what Nico says. So if you don't mind playing the clip.
Yep.
By now, many of you are familiar with this man, Zul Nantambu, who held up a flag calling to attention what's happening in Sudan and Gaza during the Super Bowl halftime show. And although the bravery of this man should absolutely call your attention, it's the reactions, or lack thereof, that should also be calling your attention and at least raising a couple of eyebrows. Now, there are a few people online who are claiming that this was some sort of inside job because Kendrick Lamar secretly wanted to bring attention to what's happening in Sudan and Palestine, but the protester made it clear they had absolutely nothing to do with that. Kendrick Lamar nor Jay-Z and Roc Nation, who helped to organize that halftime show, had anything to do with it. And that fact has unfortunately been cemented after the NFL has issued a lifetime ban to the protester who waved that flag. But I'm like, this is Kendrick Lamar and Jay-Z, right? We're going to hear something from them in defense of this protester, even if they disagree with his methods, right? Yeah, nothing, not a goddamn thing. Both of them have been completely silent. And I'm going to express to you the importance of how loud this silence is. Now, for many people, they consider Kendrick to be an activist, conscious type of rapper because of some of the music he's made in the past and his album like To Pimp a Butterfly. There were even articles done talking about decrypting the symbolism in Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show, talking about the references to the struggles of the Black community and what's seemed to be an overall general critique of America. I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. If you are actually a truly conscious rapper, you don't get Super Bowl halftime performances.
Pause it right there.
Do you get...
Pause it right there. Nico said it.
Mm-hmm.
If you were that woke, there ain't no way in hell that you're perform at the Super Bowl. And I remember, like, I've read something like from like Nina Simone. Like, I forgot what song it was, but that song essentially got her banned from playing at certain places. So general rule of thumb, if they allow you, it's kind of like AOC wearing that stupid dress at the Met Gala several years ago is an attempt to fight the resistance. If the establishment is allowing you in these spaces, you're not a threat. Yep. So, and we're going to get into why Kendrick is not a threat in a minute. But Nico said it right here. You know, he good. So, which is funny because he said the revolution will be. Yeah. But this ain't it. What he doing wasn't it. And look, anyone who tries to dissect it, you know, like you can, if you want to interpret this, or that's on you. But to me, it ain't that deep, fam. Like this performance, from what and I'll be very fair, I didn't see much of it. I only saw maybe like a few seconds of it. Well, especially just preparing.
He's subtle with his messages usually. If you've looked at any of his other stuff, right. A lot of it's like LA culture or black exploitation. Like, I'll give the credit where he's due. Right. He has done some good work in the field, but
right,
you know, if you're completely blind on, you know, a lot of your brown brothers and sisters in the Middle East, you know, and only focusing on your struggle, there's some issues. Right. So, you know,
it just reminds me, and I said this on Twitter, like Beyonce, her first performance back in 2016. Now, granted, that was during Obama's term, but she dressed in Black Panther paraphernalia you know, with the song, sure, I forgot the name of the song right now, but yeah, it's kind of similar, using the aesthetics of protests and resistance, but not necessarily talking about it or promoting it or fashioning your life around it in order to make change. But then again, as we know that Malcolm X has said, you know, do not rely on celebrities in order to bring the resistance. And, you know, so it's cool to use the symbolism. And again, a Black person using Black symbolism, you know, to create a message, but no action, or Kendrick in this case did not say any action towards actually pushing for that change.
He is talking about people like Drake doing that as well. You know, motherfuckers want to see Compton,
right,
but don't want to do nothing for Compton. You know, so I kind of get it. At the same time, like I know the fact that it's being pushed so heavily, like something's up, you know. But anyway, we'll let Nico continue a bit.
Go back like
a
few
5 seconds.
Then, yeah.
Yeah,
5 seconds.
Even though Kendrick Lamar just recently won a string
of
Grammys, just recently.
That's right.
Don't get Super Bowl halftime. You guys in a little secret. If you are actually a truly conscious rapper, you don't get Super Bowl halftime performances, nor do you get uplifted by the mainstream. Even though Kendrick Lamar just recently won a string of Grammys, people forget that Kendrick Lamar openly criticized the Grammys in 2014 after he felt like he was snubbed when Macklemore won. He and others even alluded to the fact that the Grammys are effectively racist in a lot of ways as far as how they go about choosing who does and who does not win, even in the category of hip hop. In fact, the very next year, he made the album To Pimp a Butterfly, which was clearly in response to him feeling like he and other Black artists had been snubbed and were being snubbed at the Grammys. Now, I like to call To Pimp a Butterfly conscious music for mainstream white people who want to feel woke. Now, throughout that beef, Kendrick continued to remain silent. So how does Kendrick Lamar rage against the machine that he believes screwed over him and other Black artists? He performs the album that he made to criticize the Grammys at the Grammys the very next year. And in one song, he says, "Fuck the police," which is actually a very powerful message included in that song, probably the most powerful message. And he makes sure to censor that part out as he's performing at the Grammys, which he had previously criticized for being racially apathetic. Now, Mr. Conscious has also been noticeably quiet on the issue of Palestine, which has become all the more clearer considering that this man has got a lifetime ban. This protester got a lifetime ban, and Kendrick Lamar has said absolutely nothing about it. Even stranger, Kendrick Lamar was given 5 Grammys for making a diss song about another man, which never happens. And the diss was about the artist Drake, who many of you are familiar with. However, what many of you might not have known is that that diss came shortly after Drake, half Jewish, signs an open letter calling for a ceasefire in Gaza after Kendrick remained silent. And after Kendrick basically disappeared for years and showed up out of nowhere, only to mention Drake. And then he was given 5 Grammys and a halftime show at the Super Bowl in Lil Wayne City. I mean, come on, if you know, you know. I'm just saying to me, it seems like somebody has been rewarded for their complicity. And then there's Jay-Z, who has only partnered with the NFL in helping them select the halftime show because of his open criticisms of how they blackballed Colin Kaepernick. He literally says in a song, "I said no to the Super Bowl. You need me. I don't need you," referring to the NFL and referring to the fact that he refused to perform because of their treatment of Colin Kaepernick. Fast forward, he closes this deal with the NFL. This man gets arrested, detained, and then has a lifetime ban that Jay-Z could obviously prevent from happening because of his partnership with the NFL. And where's Jay-Z at? What's the point of the symbolism if your actions don't follow? What's the point of protesting if you're only going to protest when you feel like you've been wrong, but when a genocide is happening, you go silent? What's the point of having Black faces in high places if they're going to suppress the voices who are speaking for the Black faces who can't speak for themselves or don't have the platform to do so? With people like Kendrick Lamar and Jay-Z, this is the type of representation that does more harm than good, because they had a chance to reward that man for being as brave as he was, but instead have been silent, let the NFL punish him, and they aren't even trying to give him a platform or use this opportunity to bring attention to the issues he's calling attention to, being the genocide in Gaza and a Sudan that's beriddled with war because of the actions of the United States and its allies. And it's dangerous because you have people defending the fact that Kendrick was silent, defending the fact that Jay-Z is silent, forgetting the fact that the reason Jay-Z has his position and the reason y'all supposedly like Kendrick is because of them bringing attention to issues that needed attention. So it's time that we stop this celebrity worship. Let's end it. And let's start celebrating these people like Nantambu, who are actually bringing attention to the issues that matter in this world. And I'm not talking about the type of attention that comes when the cameras are off and the lights are low and there's nothing to risk. I'm talking about the type of attention where there's everything to risk and everybody is watching. This is what we should be celebrating. And these are who these celebrities with platforms should be defending.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Nico, for keeping it concise and saying a lot more. And guess what? We're going to go a little bit further than Nico did. So let's give more of the basics first. So don't like using mainstream media, but I had to in this case. So this is from the AP, where they report Super Bowl halftime performer detained after unfurling Sudanese-Palestinian flag. At the time when I pulled this, they didn't have a name until within the last 48 hours. So they don't mention his name. But,
keep going.
Matt.
Yeah, I just went backwards one.
Yeah, the slide is not.
There you go.
So, a performer in Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show was detained on the field and could face charges after unfurling a combination Sudanese-Palestinian flag with Sudan and Gaza ran on it. The NFL confirmed the person was part of the 400-member field cast. The New Orleans Police Department said in a statement that law enforcement is working to determine applicable charges in this incident. The individual will be banned for life from all NFL stadiums and events. NFL spokesperson Brian McCarthy sent an emailed statement. Did I put it twice? I guess. The performer stood in a car used as a prop for Lamar's performance and held up the flag. The NFL said the individual hid the item on his person and unveiled it late in the show, and that no one involved with the production was aware of the individual's intent. Rock Nation, the entertainment company which produced the show, so that's Jay-Z's label, said the act was neither planned nor part of the production and was never in any rehearsal. The show continued without interruption, and it did not seem as though the person was shown on the broadcast of Lamar's performance.
Because, of course.
So I wasn't going to talk about this at all. Actually, go back one.
Yeah.
But shout out to DJ Joe Nice, friend of the show, who posted this on Instagram. And normally I see it. And fortunately, I was able to get a screenshot of this before it got deleted from his IG stories. But I remember him talking about this last year. But he said, sharing this again. For those keeping score, 1, Kendrick Lamar is signed to Universal Music Group. 2, Audrey Graham, Drake, is signed to Universal Music Group. So they both work on the same label. So this beef, I argue that, Lamar put out against Drake, and all of that, in my mind, is manufactured. But that's just speculation on my part. I don't think I'm far off the mark, but that's what I think. Anyway, number 3. The CEO of Universal Music Group is Lucian Grange, a pro-Israel billionaire and Zionist supporter. 4. Lucian Grange is a defendant of who? Reef?
Diddy.
Sean
Combs.
Court case.
Yeah.
This just in. Kendrick versus Drake is a distraction.
Yes.
This bullshit takes attention away from Israel and their continued genocide of Palestinians in Rafah. It also turns down the heat on Sean Combs. If you think a fake rap beef is quote unquote for the culture, you might need to consider other activities. And Reef, to your credit, you reported on this a few months ago.
Yes, I did.
So we did this segment, which, oddly enough, was one of our top segments of last year.
Yep.
Given the content. But we mentioned Lucian Grange in this story in terms of Diddy and the Zionist circle that he's a part of. So if you want to watch the whole thing, you can find it in our playlist. We're going to do a little flashback just to remind you of this guy. So, well, almost wearing exactly the same thing, if not the same thing.
Yeah.
Look at but we went into this. This is from Alex Rubinstein's article that he wrote up about Diddy. So we're going to watch this just to remind you all of Lucius Grange.
Oh, that beautiful beam footage.
Mr. Combs had hundreds of cameras in his homes in LA, New York City, and Miami. Mr. Combs required the sex workers and underage girls to sign NDAs prior to entering his parties and prior to being drugged and sex trafficked at these parties, the lawsuit adds. Jones believes that Mr. Combs has recordings of defendants, namely Grange and Habtemariam, as well as other celebrities, music-level executives, politicians, and athletes. That's where this shit is going to come into play, Colin.
So he's basically the Black Epstein.
Yes. Yep. So, which is why he left. He got on a plane and I'm out of here.
He fucking got out of there.
I'm gone.
Like, we say fuck them kids. He was like, fuck my kids. I'm out.
I'm out. Fucking Israel. You got a home? I can stay there.
Got arrested. He's like, deuces. I don't care about y'all either. I'm out.
Grange has supported pro-Israel initiatives such as a fund for Israeli Olympic athletes. As noted previously by Palestine Declassified, and we're going to get to these athletes in a bit, Grange was photographed by glitzy friends at the IDF Gala in 2016, presumably after making hefty donations to the pro-occupation NGO. According to UK government documents, Grange's wife, Carolyn Grange, also funds several Zionist organizations.
Of course.
Lucian Grange, possible vampire, also happens to be a close friend of Haim Saban. Yay! Goddamn right. The white Power Rangers in this case. A Democratic Party. Yep. Democratic Party power player and mega donor to Zionist causes like the Friends of the IDF. Saban is an independent, non-executive director at Universal Music Group, and last month held a fundraiser for President Joseph Biden. Yay!
So if you're wondering why Kendrick has not said shit about Palestine, that's probably why. Because he is owned by the Zionist lobby. So, and I imagine, and I said this on Twitter too, that he got those Emmy, and like I said this to you, like, because Beyonce was at the Grammys. Beyonce don't go to any of these award shows anymore in the same way she used to. Like, the only reason why she would go now, either to perform or to get an award, more than likely. Yeah. So the fact that she was there, and again, I didn't watch the Grammys, but I knew she was there. I'm like, okay, she's gonna win for Cowboy Carter. So that's the only reason why she was there. Then I heard later that Kendrick also won. I didn't know he won 5, but I knew he won at least a Grammy for None Like Us. So it seems to me that Kendrick, because he was a good little boy in doing what his overlords asked him to do, keep your mouth shut. We'll make it up to you by giving you a Grammy because you fell away several years ago. And you're going to go on tour later on this year with SZA. So you're going to make us more bank, and you're going to make some bank. So keep your mouth shut.
Seem like
that's what I expected. So that's what I expected is happening with Kendrick, because like they all know all this bullshit about the Israeli lobby and all of that. But like, so I'm sorry. Kendrick is not as woke, as Nico said, is not as woke or as conscious as he claims to be, because he's part of that machine. He's not independent. And that's the thing that Kendrick is saying. He claims to be an independent artist. But as we said, and as Nico said, he's just part of the machine. He only cares about the money. So in order to keep his standing, he has to
another one
and keep on moving. So
Yep.
any thoughts on that before I go on?
Sounds about right. You know? But
all right. So Nico, again, shout out to him. He said this before he made that hotspot clip.
Yeah.
So he tweeted, of course, he was dragged off. So this was Nintendo. He was dragged off by security, and Kendrick said nothing. Can't keep rapping about the man, quote unquote, at the Grammys and Super Bowl halftime shows if you actually had any intention on using your platform to stand up to the man, quote unquote. So
yeah.
Then he continues. Nope. Wondering when people are going to connect the dots that Kendrick
The
winning
K-dots.
an absurd amount of Grammys for making a song about another man and the Super Bowl halftime performance after basically disappearing for years was a reward for the activist welfare, quote unquote, staying silent on Palestine. So basically what I just said. Here's some tweets from people who are kind of seeing for the bullshit. At Shay Sade, I guess, said Black Americans are too impressed by empty symbolism.
If it makes you feel any better, so are white Americans. But, you know.
Yeah,
I digress.
American Ghetto tweeted, Black politics is incredibly stunted, and how people discuss the politics in art is often a mirror to that. Black mainstream musicians constantly flirt with the idea that they're revolutionaries, but never challenge capitalism, imperialism, and material exploitation, yet people eat it up. At Deem the Dream tweeted, only reason Negroes even perform at the Super Bowl is because JB usurped the police brutality protests to enrich himself. So the discourse is dumb. The game, the league, the celebrations are all inherently reactionary.
Correct.
No amount of symbolism deconstruction can change this.
Correct.
And he goes on, whole shit is mainstream rap version of twerking in front of the police. So this was in response to that at Diabolical Sun. People will continue to try because it allows them to seek comfort in their complicity. If you frame your favorite celebrity's performance as some profound protest for the culture, then you're making a significant impact by supporting.
Yes.
So I wanted to play this clip. This is from
Al Jazeera.
The Tambu. It's Al Jazeera. They popped us, so I'm not going to do it. You can find the whole thing
also
online.
Drop site news, which don't follow them either. In fact, block them normally.
Right.
You know.
Right. But I just pulled this tweet because I wasn't going to play the video.
Yeah.
But Al Jazeera anchor, in response to your protest, the NFA says you'll now be banned for life. Would you still have done it if you knew the risk? Super Bowl protester Zul Aman Natambu, the risk of a ban? I was afraid I'd get sniped by a Secret Service bullet. I can watch a football game on television if I choose to, sir.
Well, yes. I wanted to put people with that perspective. They're like snipers at a football game? Well, you know, yes. Yeah, they have those. Like, I mean, pretty apparent that that's there. But anyway, you were saying?
No, that's it. I mean, it's
yeah.
Well, it's the idea of like he thought he was going to get shot. Like he got banned. So what?
Yeah.
You'll save money and you can watch it on TV. So I think he had a great response. I watched part of it, and he did say at the beginning of it, like it was due to his faith in Islam that led him to compel to do this.
Yeah,
because
I think
he felt like you had to be a voice, essentially, for the voiceless. And when you have a platform like that, you had to use it. So this guy, as I titled it, understood the assignment. Like, he used that platform that Kendrick should have done in order to address the issues in Gaza. And he did extra in mentioning Sudan as well. Like, Black and brown people in the global South. That was something that Kendrick, again, should have had the balls to do, but couldn't and didn't because it would upset his bosses.
Yeah. Which I brought this. This is from Chris.
You brought this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the horror being banned for life from seeing a spectacle meant to distract us from the realities of our slave labor. How is the poor guy going to survive? Essentially, a lot of snark in there. Right. I do have the quote from the stuff about his faith, if you want that. I don't know if you have it in later or not. But
no, I don't.
Hold on. Let me pull it. 2, 1. The Super Bowl protester Zul Kamin Natambu, who waved the Sudan-Palestinian flag during the halftime show, spoke about how he felt he had to act. If you see a wrongdoing, you must stop it with your hands. If you can't stop it with your hands, stop it with your tongue. If you can't stop it with your tongue, stop it with your heart. And we know that's the weakest of faith. I had an opportunity on a grand scale to bring awareness and speak out against a wrong of my Muslim brothers and sisters, because we know if one part of the body is hurting, all of the body is hurting. This ummah is one body. So I didn't want to face my creator with a sign of weak faith when I knew I had an opportunity to show I didn't have weak faith. A lot of people didn't know what's going on in Gaza. A lot of people didn't know what's going on in Sudan, and they feel like they're not being represented properly. So I had the opportunity to represent them on a global scale. I had to take that opportunity, just even to get the prayers of the people. It was worth it, just even to get the prayers of the Palestinians and the Sudanese. So, yeah.
Which goes into my last slide from Huey P. Newton.
Huey P.
Who said, the task is to transform society. Only the people can do that. Not heroes, not celebrities, not stars.
And not politicians, I'll also add. You know?
Right.
So,
who are, I would argue, could be considered all of those.
Yeah.
Heroes, celebrities, and stars.
Yes, so, they've been turned into that.
So again,
speaking of politicians, we should go back and do a story on the original Huey P. Right, with his share the wealth clubs and all that stuff would be a good segment.
We can do that.
But
we can do that.
Yeah,
do some research on that. But any thoughts? Last thoughts? Nah. I know you didn't particularly want to do this story, and I didn't want to either.
I just don't like doing that.
I just felt
it's a distraction story, you know. But like that's me.
No, it's a distraction, but in a way, I have to view this in a positive way because this is what we're asking our audience to do. It's the idea of like using whatever platform you have in order to uplift the voices of the voiceless. And this guy, apparently, just doing a little research on him, he's a resident of New Orleans. He's, I guess, an artist. I'm not sure what kind. But I think he has a nonprofit that he also does that I believe kind of caters to areas in the global South. So he is connected in a way of knowing the struggle and wanting to do something about it. So, so he was a part of the production crew. So he took it upon himself to be an advocate for the people of Gaza and Sudan. So, which I think, again, number one, and we say this, like, what are you willing to lose? Now, he said he thought he was going to lose his life. He basically ended up getting like, oh, you can't go to NFL games anymore. Okay.
He was like, okay.
So, right. So there ain't no thing. But I did want to mention him in light of everything because everyone is trying to dissect this thing with Kendrick and just like, oh, this thing has so much symbolism. Oh, this show, this like, it was funny. I think I said this to you earlier. Like, I was watching, another YouTuber who, and I guess a lot of people from NOLA hated the performance.
Well, there's a reason for that, and it's not just because of.
There is a reason for that.
Do you know the thing with Lil Wayne in this? Because he's not like like Drake fucked his girl while he was in prison, pretty much. Then Drake ended up in Apology tattooing Drake's name on his face. Drake's also said, like, I might be wrong. Lil Wayne also, I think, defended Diddy or something like that. I don't know, man. It's all nonsense anyway. Like, and I'm a NOLA boy, bro. Like, Lil Wayne's been at it for a minute. You know what I'm saying? But you know who else been at it for a minute? Hey, how about Mr. Teddy Payne over here? Mr. Tallahassee P. You know what I'm saying? Like, where he at? Just saying. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I just find it funny at this point, and like, there's definitely some symbolism, and it's important to call out, like PDF files and whatnot.
But it's not like
any and all.
But we've seen this before.
Yes.
Right. We've seen this before. It's
Blur,
like
Oasis,
the symbolism is there, but it's not that
Tupac,
as I said, it's not that deep.
Yeah.
It's not that deep. And what's the point? And as Nico said, what's the point of symbolism if there's no action behind it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, people are going to forget about this thing within the next few weeks or months.
Yeah.
And as I said, well, I'll say that because as I said, Kendrick is going on tour. I'm not sure if he's going to utilize any of this. So we might be seeing this a little bit more depending on how he works his tour. But it's not that deep, fam. At least not to me. It's just a way to kind of placate. I think it's just a way to piss off the conservatives and try and give Black people like something like, yeah, well, I feel seen, and it's Black History Month, and all this kind of stuff. But,
the revolution will not be televised.
But again, there's no bite behind it. So, and again, given that it's Jay-Z who produced this thing,
it's even more questionable.
Like, from the very and I remember this is why in a lot of ways I'm not watching NFL now, because Jay-Z's like, I'm not performing in the NFL again because of what you did to Kaepernick. But just like Obama sold out for money, that now he produced it. He's produced these things since what, 2018, 2019.
Don't look at Jay-Z and Beyonce's connection to that guy, or their connections to other children exploitative rings.
People now, because her pre-sale tickets are going on sale for a tour, and people are like trying to figure out if they're going to pay their rent or their mortgage in order to go. I'm like,
what dummies.
Not me. Not me. I am not supporting any of these motherfuckers, Like, would I ever go to Beyonce? Maybe, because it's Beyonce, but I'm not going to go broke in order to try and go to a country
I can just watch it on YouTube. It's fun, like, whatever.
Exactly. Anyway. Exactly. I could watch it in the comfort of my own home at my own time. So no thank you.
Fuck them. Like, But anyway, speaking of YouTube, I gotta go back to find one of those. Hold on. Speaking of YouTube, keep going. Like, it's probably why we're demonetized talking about these kinds of stories. So, scan that QR code, go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork, or go in the description below and give us a few dollary dues, help keep the lights on here. But you can't do that. Like and subscribe, share this with your friends. Let us know what they think, but leave a comment. What do you think of this whole thing? What's your take on the Drake Super Bowl distraction nonsense? But otherwise, thanks for watching.